Hello my friends, today we will discuss about history of the execution by being thrown off a roof has appeared in different cultures and times throughout history as one of the most brutal methods of punishment, designed not only to kill but to humiliate and terrorize. This method was often chosen because of its simplicity: no tools, no elaborate setups, only the height of a cliff, tower, or rooftop. It relied on gravity itself as the executioner, turning the condemned's final moments into a terrifying fall where the victim could suffer broken bones, disfigurement, and a slow, agonizing death if not killed instantly. In the ancient world, this method was used by several civilizations. In Rome, traitors and certain criminals could be executed by being hurled from the Tarpeian Rock, a steep cliff overlooking the Roman Forum. It was both symbolic and practical. Traitors to the state were thrown from the very heart of Rome, their bodies smashed on the rocks below for all to see. The Romans viewed it as a disgraceful death, reserved for those who betrayed their city. In the Byzantine Empire, political rivals were sometimes executed by being hurled from high walls or towers. For emperors and nobles, it was a way to remove threats while sending a visible message of dominance. Falling from such heights often didn't guarantee an immediate death. Many victims were left mutilated, and some might survive the fall long enough to suffer further torment or be finished off by guards. In medieval times, the act of defenestration, throwing someone out of a window, became infamous. The most notable examples occurred in Prague, where political and religious tensions between Catholics and Protestants led to rival factions tossing enemies from castle windows. The first defenestration of Prague in 1419 and the second in 1618 sparked wars, demonstrating how execution by being thrown from height was tied not just to punishment, but to the eruption of wider conflicts. In more recent centuries, dictators and regimes have used rooftop executions as a brutal form of punishment and spectacle. Political opponents, prisoners, or accused criminals were hurled from buildings as a way to instill fear. Death was often immediate if the height was great enough, but in many cases, victims would survive the fall only to die slowly in agony. The method served as both execution and psychological warfare, killing the body while shattering morale. The brutality of this execution lies not only in the physical destruction of the body, but in the anticipation. The condemned could see the deadly drop before them, knowing every second was carrying them closer to their violent end. Unlike a quick beheading or shooting, the fall amplified terror, and the aftermath left mangled corpses as public warnings. This form of execution represents one of the most primal and horrifying ways humans have punished one another, stripping away tools of ceremony and leaving only the cruelty of the fall, where death is not clean, but violent, messy, and unforgettable. One of the earliest infamous sites of this execution was the Tarpeian Rock in Rome, located on the southern summit of the Capitoline Hill. It was a sheer cliff that overlooked the Forum. Those condemned for treason, perjury, or dishonoring the gods were led through the streets, in chains, jeered at by the public, and then hurled from the rock. The fall itself was not always enough to kill instantly, so the broken bodies of the victims often struck the sharp rocks below, leaving a gruesome spectacle. Romans believed this form of execution erased the person's honor entirely, as their corpse would be denied burial rites and left exposed to animals. To be thrown from the Tarpeian Rock was considered one of the most shameful deaths in Roman society. In Byzantine times, imperial politics were notoriously brutal. Rival claimants to the throne or high-ranking generals who posed a threat were sometimes executed by being hurled from the walls of Constantinople or palace towers. This method had a symbolic power. The city's walls represented its strength, and to cast someone from them was a way of showing both their defeat and disgrace. It also saved rulers from bloodier executions, letting gravity and stone do the work. However, Byzantine chroniclers noted occasions where the condemned survived the fall, only to be dragged away for further torture or left to die slowly in agony, ensuring the punishment was drawn out. The Defenestrations of Prague are some of the most famous examples in European history. In 1419, during rising tensions between the Hussites and Catholic authorities, a mob stormed the new town hall in Prague and threw city officials out of the windows. Those who survived the fall were killed by the crowd waiting below with weapons. Nearly 2 centuries later, in 1618, another act of defenestration sparked the 30 Years' War, one of Europe's most destructive conflicts. Protestant nobles, furious with the Catholic Habsburgs, hurled imperial envoys out of the windows of Prague Castle. Remarkably, the victims survived. The fall. Catholic writers claimed they were saved by angels, while Protestant accounts insisted they landed in a dung heap. Either way, the act ignited decades of war. Throughout the Middle Ages and early modern period, defenestration became almost symbolic of rebellion. To throw someone out of a window or from a height wasn't just execution, it was a statement of rejection, casting out someone as worthless. In more recent times, rooftop executions have been carried out by authoritarian regimes and extremist groups. During the 20th century, some dictators used the method against political enemies, prisoners, or dissenters, often in public as a demonstration of control. In some cases, soldiers would throw prisoners from helicopters or high buildings, ensuring instant death or horrific injury. The sheer psychological terror of watching someone plummet to their death made it an effective weapon of fear. What makes this method so brutal is its slow-motion cruelty. Unlike a sword or bullet that ends life swiftly, the condemned person has moments to look down, feel the air rush around them, and know the inevitable destruction that awaits. Sometimes death came instantly from broken necks or skulls, but often it was a drawn-out, screaming descent followed by shattered bones and suffocation as the victim lay dying on the ground. The act of being thrown from a roof or high place became not just execution, but public theater of violence. It humiliated the condemned, stripped them of dignity, and left behind a visual message of terror to those who might defy authority.